Oh, yeah. And welcome everyone to the Live Lands Live Meet Shooting the Ball from McHale's live in the greatest city in the world. We are here in New York, just off of Times Square, and of course, I'm joined by the one and only Mr. AE Anthony Eugenia. Hello, my friend.
Hey, Philip, this is awesome. A year later, we had last year's Live Lounge live here in McHale's, and we're back ahead of what is going to be an even more exciting weekend than we saw last year. Ticket sales are up. The excitement is just building to just a crescendo.
Can it get any more exciting though? Look, this city never disappoints, and already the hustle and bustle is back. The players are here, they're delivering. This is the premier event on the World Series Tour. This is the one that everyone wants, and it just keeps delivering year after year.
We were at Media Day yesterday in Madison Square Garden. The big marquee dropped to the floor with the great backdrop of the U.S. Darts Masters, and you and I were sitting there talking about the Led Zeppelin on that stage, on that floor, the sports that have taken place, and of course Hulk Hogan beating the Iron Sheik right there at the center mat to raise the WWF at the time World Championship. So yeah, spine tingling stuff that darts gets to be in New York. Like I was walking in front of the marquee last night as it rotates, and there is the U.S. Masters at Madison Square Garden. Blows my mind.
Look, chat room is rammed already as well. Matador is in. K-Days, Connor, how we doing? Shelty, Warren, Matthew in as well. Everyone drop us a like and subscribe to both the OD channel and of course the CDC channel where we are streaming parallel at the same time. But look, this tournament, this is the one that everyone wants to be at. And look, we look at the North American representation, the strongest field we've seen. What are you expecting from your guys?
Well, we sit around and we talk about how many W's can we get on Friday night. That is the first part, is that U.S. Masters, right? You want to, first step is play well. We want to entertain everybody, and we think we've got hot players coming in Sevada. Sevada's super hot. We look at this year, Stowe Buntz has made 3 of the 4 event finals, so he's coming in good form. Matt Campbell has played well on the European tour, right? So Matt's going to come in playing well. So I think first and foremost, we expect to compete. Like, we're going to compete. We're going to give the big boys, a run for their money. And, hopefully a couple of North Americans are sticking around on Saturday night.
Yeah, look, Jeff Smith showed everyone the blueprint a few years ago when he got to the final. He ran into Michael playing extremely well. But we look at it, and I mean this with the utmost respect. You've been disappointed since Jeff Smith that your boys haven't perhaps put on a show for the talent they have.
I think from a results standpoint, yes. I think we're waiting for that breakthrough run, and multiple breakthrough runs, to have players go over, whether it be the Winmore Masters, the Grand Slam, the World Championship, and make it into quarterfinals regularly. From an average standpoint, they're still giving us good averages. So we're certainly not disappointed in the boys from that standpoint. But it's due time we put W's under our belt. I think that's in agreement.
And the other thing I'm going to say, and this shows how far darts in North America and the CDC have come. We're talking about the names that aren't here, which hasn't happened before. Before, I mean, go, yes, that is what it is. But this year, we're talking about the names that haven't made it here, and the strength and depth. That pool is getting bigger and bigger here in North America.
Yeah, it definitely is, and that's a good problem from an organizer standpoint, and from the whole continent to have. That it's not just everybody is by rote and granted in, because we've there's only 6, 7, 8 players, but now we've got double, even triple that certainly would be qualified to get up on that stage.
Yeah, I know, 100%. I can't wait to see where this goes in North America. And Uncle Barry is already teasing things that this is the next one that he wants big things from, and so on. We're seeing that with expanded pass, more routeways, which we'll touch on when Peter joins us later on. But look, if darts in North America is ever going to make it, it is here and now, isn't it? We are not going to get a better opportunity to make it happen in the States.
No, it feels everything is as good as it's ever been from a social media standpoint, coverage on different platforms with the Peacock announcement that the PDC events will be on Peacock. We get Pluto coverage through FanDuel and Modus. So darts is pretty much feels like it's at its highest peak that I've been in. I've been in this game now for 30 years.
The greatest city in the world, of course, when
Absolutely.
making that.
I feel a little now like let's now just have some fun. I mean, you read out everybody in the chat room and look at me, everybody from the chat room to on camera. It's I'm usually in there getting a shout out from Philip that Austin via the greatest city in the world, New York City. So I'm back home. It's always fun when I get to be in the chat room because I know a large part of what makes the show the chat room. So thanks for coming in, everybody, and it's a blast to to join forces. I do a monthly podcast called Shooting the Bull. If the online darts listeners, you can go check out at Champ Darts on YouTube, and you subscribe, and
100%.
so it's a real blast that we get to do this and have some fun.
Well, normally I'm in your chat room at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Exactly.
You're going, what are you doing up?
I'm like, why is Philip up this late?
The other thing, the switch from Vegas to here seemed a real pivotal moment.
Yes.
As well,
I think a big move.
Look, I was lucky. I went to Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't the same. It wasn't the same as what we've now got here. Look, it was a bold strategy because Vegas is the Sin City, the fun capital.
Absolutely.
But now we've got a home, and that move was just so pivotal.
Yeah, I mean, on retrospect, it seems like a no-brainer because it's work. But I mean, certainly at the time, I mean, kudos to Matt Porter and the PDC team. It was a big decision and a big move. I mean, there was tons of outcry when the decision was made that it was going to move to Vegas. I mean, Las Vegas, obviously, entertainment capital of the world. I don't know that anybody who went there didn't have a good time, but that was probably the issue. Not enough folks went. It was, to be honest, it was player driven. There was a qualifying process. People went out, and it was a lot of they had focus on playing. So I think the real big break, and again, to Mr. Porter and his team to sort of see the vision of, we need to make this event a spectator event, So, even though it was uncomfortable with some backlash to it, just to sort of break that mold to say it's coming to New York City and it's a complete spectator event. So, leave your darts at home, instead of packing the darts, pack the fancy dress because you're coming to a show, and that's what it's been. So it's just phenomenal that it's clicked and it's grown from year to year.
Well, you touch on the growth. I don't know what the ticket sales are precisely right now. I spoke to Jimmy from the PDC 2 days ago, and it was over 9,500 across the 3 sessions, which is incredible where that growth has come from. I remember year 1. It was okay.
Yep, it was good.
Year 2,
it was good, but
got better.
Got better.
Last year, the Saturday night was incredible. The atmosphere was just like something we'd see back home.
Yeah.
The atmosphere, the pie, they were singing along. They knew the walk-on songs. I'm excited to see in a few hours' time what this year looks like.
Yeah, completely. You and I sat at one point up in the rafters, and then my partners Peter, David, and Jeff. We get a chance sometimes Saturday nights. We'll sit up there, and like you said, we take in that ambiance, and it's sort of like we look at each other. We want to pinch each other. That this crowd really gets it. They're on their feet, they're engaged, they're starting to sing, and just sort of a fun. Like I said, me and the partners usually will sit up there in the 300s. Because they haven't sold tickets, and we're expecting to lose our seats this year, which is a great problem to have, So, yeah, it's to the point where it will be, in short fashion, this event will be a complete sellout. Like you will not be able to get a ticket come the weekend. I mean, we're coming real close this weekend, but if it's not a complete sellout this weekend, it will be in 26. Like that's just a fact.
How long until?
Oh, we're not going to the big room, are we? We're going to the big room. Go ahead, give it to me.
How long until we can forget the theatre, how long until we can get darts into the main hall, whatever?
We know you're always going to bring in Uncle Barry into it. I mean, you can't go to that big room yet. I know, Baz is, dangled that a little bit. Of course, but I'm more of a conservative type of guy. Yeah, I want to see good, solid sellouts in that theater for a couple of years. Build it to where you get to a place where not that you want anybody to miss out on the event, but like in entertainment, you always want to leave them wanting more, right? So you want a high demand, with the tight thing. So you want to tread lightly with that, and you don't want to hurt the event. You don't want to go into a bigger room, not sell enough tickets, and then all of a sudden have that feel about, whoa, it doesn't have that electricity to it anymore. And I know, I listen to the show, you know that. I know that it's also a correlated conversation about what the world is going to do. It's a similar thing, right? Do they go to a much bigger room and risk losing what magic there is in the Alley Pally? Because we're starting to grow that magic here at the theater at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, it's that calculated time. When do we go?
Yes.
When is the right time to jump? Chat room, you are on fire as well. Chris is in, and a lot of people asking where we can watch it. Right, so depending where you are in the world, and by the way, I've got no notes here, so I'm just remembering off the top of my head. If you are in the States, big move, Peacock. Which is, I'm a wrestling fan.
Massive.
I get it. I can't understate how big that
Yes.
move to Peacock is here in the States. For darts,
for ancillary reasons, obviously the dart fans are going to flock to Peacock. Like, from a Peacock standpoint, they'll pick up viewers, but a lot of those viewers are going to be PDC subscribers already. It's the viewer that you'll pick up where they might, because also Peacock also carries English Premier League.
Yeah, so the casual. That
so at some point the suggested feed that comes on those viewers that are going to tune into the Premier League are going to start to see dart coverage. So then that will just expand, so that suggestion and that sort of, put in front of the new consumer is where I think the real impact of Peacock's going to be.
Yeah, and then if you are in the UK, you will get delayed coverage on ITV4. But if you want to watch it live, it will be on PDC TV as well. So if you are up at silly o'clock like me and so on, you can watch it live, PDC TV, but delayed coverage on ITV4 as always. But look, this whole buzz around New York and what it brings, that we've seen them in Times Square, Central Park. We see what goes with it. That crossover that's now happening and the relationships that are being formed are huge for the sport. And that's one of the things that I think is going to break us in here, is those links with American football. Whether it's the Rangers here playing ice hockey, the Mets, we've seen them go in there, the wrestling theme as well. This is the crossover that we need to keep doing. I know people go, oh, wrestling and stuff like that, but this is what the American audience want. This is the ones that we need to drag over.
Correct. I mean, no matter what you think of the, I hear God going, the sport, of the entity that is the WWE, you can't deny their ability to entertain. Like, they know entertainment, right, in their package. So anytime that you can get, the social media engagement to get those entities, like you said, NFL, NBA, and WWE, to get blurbs about what goes on at Madison Square Garden this weekend, to put it in their social media feeds, that registers, that moves the needle.
I remember last year, the Rangers were having a really good season, and the buzz was around, obviously, so I'm told. Not so good this season. We haven't got the Rangers playing.
Yes.
Well, we're playing
as a Ranger fan, that's hurt. Yeah, it hurts to admit that. Yeah.
MSG. I know we keep talking about this. The American doubleheader. Where would be the next move if we want to? We know the PDC will do it when they want, but as someone from North America, what would make sense? Another one in the States or Canada? What makes more sense for the growth in North America?
I want to have some fun, and I love him. I should dump this all on my partner, Peter Citera. We'll have him squirm to try and give me okay, but I understand it. I understand the question.
Involved in darts for a long time.
I've been in the game for a long time. I'd say, of course, first off, Toronto. Like, you want to get up to Canada, so you want to get up outside the Toronto, in Ontario outside of, I guess, Newfoundland, obviously one of the biggest hotbeds there. In terms of the states, Boston's been talked about forever. I think Boston may respond. You've got other interesting resort areas, but again, being in Vegas, what does that prove or disprove? There's some wonderful resort areas in the country that you can go in. I think maybe if New York continues to be so successful, maybe you do justify going back to Vegas a little bit. So you have that combination of the Big Apple with the glitz of Vegas. So maybe Vegas gets reintroduced. So, there's a couple of interesting possibilities.
I can spend Uncle Barry's money. Why can't we just do a month tour? We'll start in LA, LA, Vegas, New York, and we'll finish in Toronto or something.
We certainly got to stop in Austin, Texas, and maybe Nashville. So yeah, I mean, if we're going to spend Uncle Barry's money, of course, we're going to hit every good fun city the U.S. has to offer.
Look, incredible times. Like, right, we're going to put a short slide up, and on the other side of this, our first two guests are here. And welcome back. Our first two guests have arrived. Adam Sevada and Stowe Buntz are here playing this evening, both dropped into the house just to see us. Gentlemen, you two are the hottest two properties in North America at the moment, the start of the new season. That must feel good heading towards MSG.
Yeah, I mean, it feels good. I mean, it just we'll see if we could carry it on.
It feels better if I was ahead of him. I'll take that for right now.
So, as Phill said, two of the hottest guys. I've got some notes on the CDC season so far, where four events in. Stowe has made three of the four finals. Adam has won two of them, so that puts you guys at the top of the leaderboard. Adam with 52 points and Stowe at 44. So, obviously we've got this weekend coming up. So you've got, a chance to not only win the U.S. Masters, right? Let's never take that off the table. But Saturday is a big opportunity to become North American Championship, a good amount of money in the bank, but to a lot of people, most importantly, a spot at Ali Pali, right, for the World Championship. And that's one of three chances that you have. There's the top U.S. spot, where both of you guys obviously competing for that. And then now newly announced, exciting for all of us, Continental Cup champion goes. So start with Adam. A lot of opportunities. There's a good chance we're going to see both of you guys in London in December.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's great that the PDC has offered more spots for us, and that gives us more people more opportunity to do what I think we're all here to do is be at the Ali Pali, right? And hopefully I can stay on top of the order and the CDC. Well, we'll see how that goes. Have a long way to go.
So, about this year and the quest to get back on stage in London.
Yeah. So, like Adam said, PDC offering some more spots. I've been fortunate enough to grab a spot the last 2 years at Ali Pali, and I'd love to grab one of the 5 spots this year. That'd be great. Just to have another opportunity. So,
what's the internal rivalry like between not just you guys, but in general? Because we see, especially in the UK, that like the Aspinall Dobie relationships, like rivalries. Do we have those rivalries between players over in the States as well?
I'd say we do in some areas, but for the most part, you can go to any one of the CDC events, and I think you'll see that the same 4 or 5 of us are always at the same couple tables. I mean, and I guess that'll be more like a clique, and we kind of just enjoy each other's company off the dartboard, talking. And you'll find pretty much the same 4 or 5 of us.
Yeah, exactly what Stowe said. I mean, obviously we know who's going to give us the good matches, and like I said, we're just all hanging out like we are now.
Yes.
And to your point about rivalry a little bit, we just came out off of the weekend number 2, which had events 3 and 4, and these two gentlemen clashed in both of the finals with Adam winning both, but tight contest, 7-5, 7-3. So
that's not tight.
I mean, it's a whole lot better than 7-1, brother.
That's accurate. That's accurate.
So little payback in the second half.
Oh yeah, my goal is to make every final, and I'm sure Adam has the same goal. Except for I'm gonna try to do a little better and not let him win every time, especially if it's against me.
But for you, Adam, last year we came here, there was a lot of talk around you, and it didn't quite happen like everyone was going, Adam's the one, Adam's the one that's going to do it. How much have you learned in this last year? Because the levels seem to be going up and up still.
I think as far as me learning something, it'd be the experience, being on the big stage. But other than that, nothing's really changed as far as me practicing, or if I practice, I really don't. I just throw. But everything's been the same.
No,
I mean, I get media, is going to talk, and that's what they do, but it is what it is. It doesn't bother me at all.
Media is going to talk.
That's what we're doing there. But no, the answer from Stowe. So we've spoken about this a lot, but what are the chances of Adam Sevada coming over and giving it a go and trying to get on tour?
Yeah, I'm going to give it a shot this year. So we'll see what happens.
Nice.
Yeah, I've kind of talked to some people about it and kind of got things in order if it happens, but we'll see how that goes.
So with that, my next question, because it's something that we always ask, you're in a good position. You can pick Germany or the UK. If you thought tactically, you're right, which one do I go
I'm
to?
going to Germany.
Good call. Right, the right call as well.
Yeah.
And I don't mean it horribly, but it's easier to go to Germany than it is the UK, in my opinion. When you have the choice, it's easier to go to Germany. So I like that. And
Yeah.
That's good. The Reaper on
So
top.
that's what I'll be there. Yeah, I'll be there. Yeah,
We'll be supportive.
appreciate that.
You must like that as well.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I mean, that's part of the whole goal of what we're doing with the CDC is to get the boys, get the professional tour card, get those opportunities, and continue to blaze a path for everybody behind them.
Devil's advocate here, and this is kind of for all three of you here. Say we get 8 North Americans on tour, which is incredible for you guys because it shows the strength.
Mm-hmm.
But then also, does that close some internal pathways? Because then, like Madison Square Garden, there'd be no qualifiers and so on. Like, for one, it'd be amazing that we had 8 North Americans on tour, but is there a downside to that, perhaps?
Because, like you said, we'll talk to Uncle Barrett. let's try and get a piece of the pie for everybody. Something for
Next session and
for tour card holders and something for the non tour card holders. So, spread the wealth a little bit. That's what I say.
100%.
Yeah.
I think ultimately it's what you want because you want the growth in the sport. So ultimately, if hypothetically Adam and 7 other guys go over there and have tour cards, what that does is that creates the next wave to come be the next top 8 CDC players. And ultimately, it does, to his point, force Uncle Barry to recognize what's going on.
Sure.
And now let's invest back into the market some other way. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, and that goes to your earlier point. Like, wouldn't that be a large driver in PDC board meetings to say, look at the continuing to grow, continuing to gain tour cards. Like, we need to expand the opportunities in the events. But I'll put my fan hat on. Like, let's say if it was just New York, you've got 8 tour card holders. You put the 8 PDC card holders into the U.S. Masters, and then you still give 8 complete open spots to CDC players to compete for a North American Championship. So you've got 16 players now showing up who are all making a paycheck.
Well, again, I'm just looking at it from my point of view.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you probably can't answer this, but you two can. So, the standard in North America now, the North American Darts Championship, is it time to expand the field? Because 8 is a very small number, and there are certainly more than 8 of you to showcase and can compete at the highest level. So, would you two like to see this field expanded
for the North American Open?
Yeah,
of course. I will never go away from not making it bigger, not inviting more people to the table. I will always say that's the best thing for the sport, in my opinion.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Because there's, just to be honest, not saying that we're not the best to be here. There's a lot that try to qualify that didn't make it. That deserve to be here as well.
I can name 4 elite players from the CDC. They're not going to be here this weekend. That could be here easily over top out of myself.
Yeah, we touched on that. Absolutely. The quality of players that are not here, or no disrespect to them personally, but it's more, it's a compliment to the overall player field that now competes in North America.
100%. That was my point. And I look at Spellman's the one that instantly stands out. He's not here, and
David Cameron.
David Cameron, Jeff Smith. Obviously, I know he chose not to try and qualify for this because he had other things on. But we look at the players and say that aren't here, and it's like, wow, the list is getting bigger and bigger. So could we go to 16 and have an extra session on the Friday? And something like that would be great.
Yep. Well, let me get out my old drum and continue to beat on it, right? Because it's true. A lot of it is the people on the other side of that camera, right? You sell out and buy the tickets for the North American Championship on Saturday. Create the demand. Let the powers that be, sponsors and the organizations above us, know that there's fandom here, that there's support here, and that then gives these guys greater and greater opportunities. So everybody plays a role in it, organizers, players, and fans. Like, fans have great impact with their consumer dollar. Don't downplay that, right?
We touched on American sports and that. And are you two sports fans in general? Forget darts, like massive sports fans across the States?
Yes.
Yep.
What's your choice other than darts?
For me, football, college football. College football, because they lay it all on the line because they're trying to get to the next level. So you'll watch them make some of the hardest plays that you'll ever see to get to that next level. So that's college football for me.
For me, it's baseball, but it's recently switched to college football as well. I mean, let's be honest, professional sports has changed over the past few years, and
I'm glad you gave me the crack in the door, and I'm going to kick it wide open.
At some point, it's going to become flag football.
The NIL stuff doesn't have any impact to you with that, like, because college football now is changing drastically.
Yeah,
where you've got kids bouncing from 2 universities based on the money bag that they can be offered. Which changed that, like you said. I mean, that was the pure nature of college football prior, and it's starting to get a little fuzzy.
Yeah.
And I think Michael Jordan touched on it a couple of years back on an interview. He talked about even when his professional career, they were not handed anything; they had to go earn it. Right now, and it is changing. They are starting to hand it out at an earlier age, a younger age, and when you start to do that, it kills the drive for the person. Like if you're already getting a meal ticket and not having to put forth 100% every time, you're going to get complacent. And that's why college for me has been my go-to for the last 10 years. But it is also changing.
I love the difference between UK sport and American sport because obviously you have no promotion and relegations or anything like that. You try and qualify for the end of season, whether that be the Super Bowl, the playoffs or whatever, where teams are fighting not to get relegated, and then we have drafts. And I know a couple of the PDC boys went to like the NBA drafting in the Barclays Centre the other day, and I was just thinking how that could work in the UK, where people get drafted to certain things and whatever. The difference between sport here in the UK is huge. But would our version ever work in the States, where I'm just going to the Cowboys got relegated or something like that? Would that ever work if there was 2 leagues?
Well, I don't know on a professional level, but to keep the conversation in college football, I've actually heard that being put up. That a relegation system might be the way to go, because then now you would have, because I mean a lot of times it gets to a place where it's now I'm going to insult a bunch of people because I can't remember all the teams, but you've got a Michigan and an Ohio State and a Penn State, like you get teams that call them teams, like they act like they're pros, but like that tend to be the better universities. So that could be a way to sort of structure that, so you'd still have players, teams competing, but you'd have a relegation system. And that probably is the first place to test it, and then see, how the U.S. fan would respond to that, because it is something completely different than what we do.
Yeah. In the chat room, we've got one for you that says, do you guys follow proper football, as in soccer?
I've been a Gunner fan since I was 7. I'm pretty sure that it's going to get some more comments. I tried to get my son to be a Gunner fan, so he grew up like an Arsenal for many years. But Gunner. I've been a Gunner fan. So I think it was second night I was in London last year. Our Uber driver, we were talking about the back seat, and we weren't paying attention. And he pulled up in front of the stadium and was like, "Look." And I was like, "Oh man, I appreciate it," because he overheard us talking, and he kind of went out of his way on his own to drive past the front of the stadium. So that was kind of cool. For you, Adam?
Yeah, I watch soccer. Mainly during the World Cup, support the U.S. team. But yeah, I don't mind it at all. I mean, it's not something I watch all the time, but yeah, I do.
And we've got the World Cup coming next year.
Yeah. Back to the darts and whatever. What's life like on tour in the US? Because we see what it's like in the UK and so on. Because your travelling is horrific compared to ours, where we might have a 3-hour drive, where you guys have got like a 9-hour drive sometimes. What is life on the road like?
It's rough for. I'm on the West Coast, all the way to the West Coast. It was a 5-hour flight from here. I mean, a lot of the guys like Stowe and Spellman, they could drive into certain places. For me, it's a lot to fly. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fortunate.
Everything's on the East Coast.
I try to drive to a lot of them, and just because of the travel headache. When it comes down to it, if I'm going to spend 11 hours between airports and layovers, then I might as well just jump in a vehicle and drive 11 hours. That way I can stop when I want, take a break. It's just, go look at some of Spellman's posts. I think Spellman's had the worst travel of the CDC players this year. I think he's at the bottom of the list as far as his delays. When I went up to Cambridge, I flew to Buffalo and drove across the border. And the night before leaving, I got all these notifications that they completely canceled my flight, rerouted me to another airport. That flight ended up getting delayed. So I had some rough.
There always seems to be one player per season who's completely snake bit. Like, don't make any travel plans with him because he's not going to make it.
Yeah, that's been Spellman.
I'm just throwing out there. Because I love Alex a bit, but is he the biggest moaner on tour then?
Ouch. No. I like reading. No. He may not throw anyone else under the bus, but he's like, I got a few names.
Yeah, I got a bunch of names. I'm not going to put in. Some of these guys are there. It's not Alex.
I'm not into bits, but to be fair, in the UK, no one wants to travel with Dovey because his case always goes missing. Dovey's the one where his case is always delayed or goes missing, so he's the one. Do you have that issue here that cases go missing? Because in the UK, it happens all the time. We see the Euro Tour, players rocking up using someone else's darts, just a normal polo shirt because their match shirt's not there, and so on.
Again, not for me. Because I do a lot of travel.
It hasn't happened for me yet, so
not yet. Let's hope it does.
Yeah,
that'd be an interesting conversation. Can I borrow your darts?
Let's look back a little on this past season. You both, Adam's going to make a face here because we're going to relive maybe,
New York
event. Well, no, event one. You both. One has flirted with perfection. The other one has achieved perfection. The 9-darter still is completely magical in the sport, and even more for us here in North America. Early on in this season, you had a chance at a 9-darter, and then Gates snatches it away from you with a big 1-6-1 out. In event one, and we saw you guys, exchange some maybe not so pleasantries. Walk us through that frustration of having a guy, at least snatching a 10-darter away from you.
Yeah, no, I didn't even realize Gates was on the out and out.
Yeah,
and then I look up and forget. I think it was James. I was a scorekeeper. He said game shot. I said, "What's going on? Yeah, what happened? What
did
just
somebody
happened?
give him 6?
Yeah.
Like how did that?
But when I was going for the double 12, it felt great. I felt like I was going to hit it, and if the wire was just a little, wider, I probably would have. But no, it felt good. It is what it is. It happens. That's darts.
And then the following weekend, event number 4 in the semifinals, Stowe Buntz goes up against Jim Long, 177, 180, and a 141 to complete the 9. So we saw you, give some emotion when that double 12 went in, but walk us through that a little bit as each 3 unfolds. Us fans who aren't at that level, we always wonder and even to Adam, you can chime in on this after you're 6. What goes through your mind? Are you fighting to not focus on it? Like how much do you allow yourself to acknowledge that I'm stepping to the line with a possible 9-darter?
For me, I've never really had an issue with the focus piece. I've just in Adam's case, the finishing, the last dart or the last 2 darts is usually where the train runs off the tracks. And I just told myself, if I can get that first on that 4, if I can get that first trip 20 in, I'm just dropping the next one right on top of it. And I was able to do that. And I didn't lose my rhythm. I didn't hesitate. If you go back and look at it, I immediately, you see some people step back, breathe, go into twin. Nah, I just let it rip, and it caught it.
So when that double 12 goes in, what's the feeling?
Finally.
Finally.
Well, fine. So, I've done a couple, but never in competition and never streamed, obviously. So, to have get both of them at the same time was pretty cool. But yeah, it's just like finally, you're over that hump of actually doing a competition.
And so what's your approach, Adam?
Yeah, no. After your first six, and my thing is, once I get that first one in, then it's like, all right,
This is doable.
Yeah, it is doable. Then the second one goes in, you're like, oh man, I got
Oh,
this.
boy, look
I got this. And then, yeah, it's just,
and steals it.
Once you've done it once,
Mm-hmm.
is it easier? Does it become the norm going for this?
Oh, I have to say no, because the
Yeah.
last time I did one was 2 years ago. So you're talking a 2 year span from the last time I did it to a couple weeks ago. And I'm talking about even at practice. I haven't done one in 2 years. So
yeah.
I don't think it gets any easier. It may for some other people, but it's always that dark number 8 or dark number 9 that gets me. So
If it was that easy, we don't be at Premier, right?
right.
Yeah.
Which is harder, Dart 8 or Dart 9? Because if you hear a lot of people saying the switch down is harder, once that one's in, they're confident. For you two, which one's the harder?
So for me, on the ones that I have done, I've always done the switch earlier on in the shot. Usually, a lot of people talk about how I'm a big 19 shooter. So when I grabbed them 2 first trip 20s, I immediately switched. And when I caught it, I was like, all right, everything here is 20s and then a straight line to the double 12. So that's I try to get that 19 out just because I know I can peg it at will, in my opinion.
I think the for me it'd be the 7th. I mean, because you get the first 6 in, and then you're already kind of thinking. I mean, it's just normal, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're thinking about it already, and then if you think about the first one, it has to go, and once it goes, then it's kind of, for me, it's downhill after that. I won't say it's easy because we can't all hit it, but yeah.
We see Littler get the hump when he misses Dart 2 and 3 sometimes. He's thinking about the 9 early. When do you two start thinking there's a chance here? Is it that early, or visit
after I put 6 perfect in? Right.
Yeah.
Then my brain switches like, all right, here we go.
Not like Luke, where you see him get off after Dart 2 or Dart 3.
I have too many crazy darts for that.
Yeah.
So, unless you have somewhere else, we'll turn towards this weekend.
Yeah.
Okay. So, because we got to get the boys out of here. The boys are playing tonight, right? So we got to start the prep and everything. So let's look at tonight, the round 1 of the 2025 PDC US Darts Masters. So first up, Mr. Sevada, you've drawn Gerwin Price up for tonight. So talk about tonight's match against Price, but then also returning to the Garden. What that feeling was like, and what you expect again to get through that crowd, that walk on some home soil, music's blaring, and what that's like to walk on stage at Madison Square Garden.
It's a great feeling. It's a feeling that I wanted to get. That's why I wanted to qualify. And once I qualified, I was happy. There's nothing. I was listening to Stowe's interviews this morning at the hotel room, comparing Ali Pelli, MSG. I mean, MSG is just MSG, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's an iconic place, but to be able to come back is great. Playing Price, I'm not going to change anything different.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's just another dart player that I have to get through, and I'm going to do what I have to do to get through, and hopefully I do. And if not, then it is what it is. It's just darts.
So then 7th tonight, Mr. Buntz, you've got Luke Humphries. So same questions posed. A return to MSG, and what that's like for us that don't get a chance to do it, to go through that crowd, high five everybody, know that you've got tons of support. Get on that stage and now take on Luke Humphries.
Yeah, again, I'm like Adam. I'm glad to be back in the building. Hopefully I'll do better than I did last year. Humphries, funny enough, I ran into Mr. Bunting yesterday morning, and he was talking about, that I like to draw. And so I don't think there's an easy PDC player on that list. So any one of them is not going to be a fun person to play against as far as competition level. But I did make a joke, and I was like, well, I'm at least 2-1 right now against former world champions. As far as my PDC records, maybe that's a good thing. I don't know.
I love that. The fact that these two, the two that you've got, Premier League winner and the Premier League semi-finalist. It doesn't get any easier. But is that sometimes better because right? Hang on a minute. I am playing two of the very best the game has produced, so you have to be on it from moment one.
I think for me, playing the very best is always going to bring the very best out of me. I mean, usually you go back and look at it when I'm playing guys like Sevada and they're pushing me, it forces me to do better. So I'm actually looking forward to playing, world number one. So let's go.
I mean, I don't really look at it any different. Who they are, whether world champ number one at the moment. To me, they have more to lose than we do. I mean, just going up there to play darts, and whatever happens, happens.
So no mind games, or is that not not a thing in the States like it is? We see the Peter Manley dark arts, as we call it.
I mean, you get some people that do certain things, but if you let that bother you, that's on you.
Yeah, just let it fly.
Yeah, that's it.
So then after tonight, everybody wakes up tomorrow and we approach the PDC North America Championship, right? So those 8 lads get a chance, as we touched on earlier, to win that crown and prize money and Ali Pali. So draw came out yesterday. Both Mr. Buntz and Sevada were unseeded, drawn in opposite sides of the bracket, which is interesting. All right, so we could clash it out at MSG. So let's go through this. First up is going to be Stowe. You take on Jules, the 4 seed in the second match tomorrow. So give us, I guess I'll propose, mindset of, first stage is Friday night, PDC player, and then now sort of a reset going into Saturday. So give me some mindset going into World Championship, North American Championship, and then your opponent, Jules.
Not so much a reset for me. To me, it's all one event. I understand it's broke up between the Masters and the North American Open, but to me, it's just darts and a whole new event. And again, the light at the end of the rainbow for me is I want to hold the trophy. I'm not concerned about the after effects of if you do win, I go to Ali Pali or anything like that. Right now, it's this paycheck, this trophy. What comes after that is whatever comes after that. I'm looking at each weekend, one weekend at a time. And as far as Jules, I know he's in the slump. I really can't speak much on it. I know he is struggling. I'm gonna try not to if he does end up struggling on the board. I hope he doesn't. I hope he goes up there and has a great match. I'm gonna just try to do my solid thing like I normally do and push through it and hopefully make my way to the finals.
All right, round one then finishes tomorrow with Adam taking on the number 3 seed Jin Long. So same question to you about waking up a different mindset for the North American Championship and then taking on the gentleman Jin Long.
Yeah, no, like Stowe said, it's not really a different mindset. I mean, we still got darts to play. For me, I think it's probably a little tougher playing the guys we know, because we play them quite a bit. I know Jim, great guy, but I'm just there to win, and just leave it all out there on the hockey, and whatever happens, happens.
All right, bring us home, Phil.
I know you said you're not thinking about it, but how much easier for both of you does it make the rest of the season if you win this, knowing that the end of the year is secured, the goals are there? Does it make the rest of the season easier for you if you get it done this weekend?
I would probably say no for me. I don't think it's going to make the rest of the season any easier. And just because, again, I go to each event and it's that event. I'm concentrating on that paycheck. I'm concentrating on the time off of work or the time away from my family. So the reward at the end of that weekend, each CDC weekend or each PDC tournament I go to is just that. Again, if you get all the other accolades, that's great to have, but they go to the forethought of my mind, because if I go into, and I'll speak for myself, if I win the North American Open tomorrow, I don't want to go into any more of the CDC events thinking I've already made the Ali Pali, because at that point, why am I even playing the rest of the CDC season? If I'm going to have that mentality, that's just how I take it. So
I absolutely agree. I mean, we still have a job to do. We still have, I don't know how many more events, 4?
We got a dozen.
Yeah.
Weekends. And
so I mean, if we win it, great that we're going to be going to LA Pelly, but we still have a lot more stuff to do in between until that time comes.
A lot of work.
And like I said, why am I going to go if I already know I have the spot and I'm not going to try? I mean, we all want to win. I mean, that's what we play the game for. So, yeah.
Gentlemen, absolute pleasure having you on. Thank you for taking time out on game day. Let me know you got a lot to do and go and get ready. So thank you very much. Go and do what you need to do to get ready. And we wish you all the very best this evening, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate
gentlemen.
it. Thank you.
Right, everyone, we are getting a quick reset. Going to put a quick holding screen up and we'll be back on the other side of this. And welcome back, everyone. Segment number 2, and this time we are joined by Peter Citera and, of course, the one and only Mr. George Noble. George, back in the States for the final time as a PDC referee. Obviously, just announced your retirement, the farewell tour, so to speak.
Yeah, I guess New York's a good place to wind up the World Series for me. I mean, I didn't. It's the only World Series that I've really done this year. I'll not be going to Australia or New Zealand. I love America anyway. New York's a great city, very busy. So I'll still visit New York. My family have got like quite a love affair in New York, especially the expensive shops. But yeah, to make a decision over, it's just not overnight that I've decided that I was going to wind down. It was, I'm only actually doing 54 days this year, and normally I would do 160 to 180, but with other interests, outside interests, and trying to spend a bit more time with my family, look, that has a bearing on it, but Because of different interests I've got, I don't feel like I give them 100% of what I should do. So I think it's the time to make a choice. And I've had a great time in the PDC. I wouldn't be in the businesses that I'm in now without, but I think it's time to hang the microphone up.
Did Russ doing a similar thing last year, sort of make an announcement and then a little a retirement tour, and did that inspire you, or consider it? Maybe I will do the same in next year.
No, not really, because I mean Russ says he's retired, and Vivian now. But he's going to be. I mean, he's
Not for you as well. We may not see you on the main PDC stage, but your life is going to be just as busy, if not more.
Sure.
When George is gone, I think George is gone. I don't think we're going to see George do the Russ thing.
No, that's correct, Pete. I think if you make look, I still come back to got a lot of friends here, you know what I mean? And, something like this would bring me over to the States for a long weekend or something to come and see everybody and enjoy it, like soak up the atmosphere and things like that. I still see people, but I think, Peter's right. Once I'm actually gone, I'm not going to be coming back. Well, however, I may be seeing a bit more of America in the future, hopefully. Who knows?
How important was it for you to go out at the top? Because we see, not just in darts, just in sport in general, some people outstay they're welcome and go past their day a bit, but you're not. You're going out still at the very top. Was that important to you?
Yeah, it's a big factor for me, really. I didn't want to get to a position where, look, I'm still able to do the job, and I still think I do a competent job. But I wouldn't want to get to a position where they said, do you know what, George, you've been great, but it's time for you to go. Do you know what I mean? I think if you go on your terms, then you've got sort of. I've still got a great relationship with everyone in the PDC. It's not. I'm not going for any, untoward reason. It's just I think my time's up, and I think going out when you're still able to do your job at the top level, I guess, in the world, then that's the way to go. You don't want to. You don't want to be like a boxer who winds up punch drunk with his head 1 or 2, 3, 4 minutes, two fights. You know what I mean? So I think, why not? It was a factor. Yeah, I didn't want to be told I had to leave. I thought, well, I'm going to leave. I'm going to leave on my terms. So.
Last of the old school refs as well, like the last of a golden generation, shall we say, to hang up the microphone as well. The longevity in that is incredible.
Golden oldies, eh? Yeah, I guess I think I first refereed a TV event in 1994. Oh, Masters, so 31 years. And considering that's more than I'm 56, 57 this year, so it's more than half my life been a darts referee. And you have some great times, and you meet some great people, and that's the real upside of it. It's like when you get a bit older, and for me, I would say it doesn't become a chore. But the downside of it is when you getting up on a Thursday morning at 5 a.m. to go get a flight to go to a European tour, and you're working, you get home Sunday, you get home Monday, and depending on time of flights, if it's delayed, you might go Monday night, you might have Tuesday, Wednesday, depending, and then you're back on a plane Thursday. And, I think what sort of, after doing that, the previous year, I think there was 14 or 15 European tour events. You'll tell me about, Phil.
Yeah,
I think I've done 13 of them. So I was like sometimes I was doing 3 weeks on the trot. So I was like, and in the end, I got to a place where I sort of didn't come home between 2 of them because it weren't worth, And as much as I like, I love the jobs around me, but I think keep living out of a suitcase in a hotel room and things like that. It does after 30 years. It's quite. I'm starting to sound ungrateful.
But I mean, that's the sort of hidden side of the glitz and glamour of professional sport, professional entertainment. It's getting to go do your craft in front of people, but that means going from city to city, country to country. And it's, whenever we get a chance to speak to you guys that are part of the cruise, it's like you just came from somewhere. We're headed out, in 2 days' time to somewhere else, and it has to be a grind.
Yeah, I mean, look, I travel a bunch, not nearly as much as I think George has in his career, but eventually you wake up and you know what time zone you're in.
Yeah,
and at some point it does wear on you. I like to say, George, I think you probably identify with this. I like to say I've been to so many amazing places I've never seen. right?
Yeah.
Because it's airplane to transfer to hotel to venue to hotel to transfer to airplane, and that's it, right? And so everybody else, they come in, the fans come in, it's wonderful, they have a great time. But with us, I mean, we're lucky to get a beverage after an event before it's time to get back on.
Sure, exactly. That's a good term. Been to loads of great places you've never seen. I mean, the same with me. I've been to near enough. Well, every country you can think of, I've probably been to. But have I seen any of them? Not really. Do you know what I mean? And that, obviously, you guys with what's going on with the CDC is your circuit's getting bigger and bigger. Now you've got you've had a lot of logistics and a lot of travel and things like that. So. Well, look, I know you travel a lot anyway, Peter, but it's great when I think when you've got like what you guys are looking to achieve, when you've got an end goal and things like that, driving.
Certainly, sure.
So I think
It makes things a little more palatable.
Yeah. So I think that's why we sort of made the decision to concentrate on the business side of aspect of my life, because I've got some goals that I want to achieve, and I think. For me, what else is there for me to achieve being a darts referee in the best possible way? I've refereed probably every big finals that have taken place at some point. I don't think there's anything I've wanted to do that I haven't done. So I think the term is completed.
Yeah. Do you regret at all not taking time to smell the roses, to use a phrase? Like, an example, we were in Amsterdam for the World Series finals a couple of years ago. I actually had a chance to do a canal tour. It's like the one time I've actually done something in a city. Do you find yourself wishing, like, geez, if only I would have taken an extra day here, an extra day there?
Yeah. Certain countries. I mean, certain places I've been.
Right?
Let's not go over.
I mean,
Sheboygan of the UK.
Yeah, I've not been to Wolverhampton for the last two Grand Slam events. But, nothing against Wolverhampton, by the way, but it's of course, some places you go to, you think, and I've actually done it. I mean, the first time I went, I can remember the first time I ever went to Berlin. So I deliberately took our son and we stayed a few extra days to actually enjoy what you were doing. But you're right, Peter. Of course, I regret sometimes, especially like coming over here. When I used to come over here and you go, like we do, say the Desert Classic in Las Vegas, going back to that. We'd fly in on a Wednesday and we'd fly in on a Sunday or Monday. So you got no time to see anything, and you're thinking, well, yeah. I think things like that, 100%. I wish I maybe took the chance to see places, but hopefully now I will.
But even though we talk about that, about the stress of travel and coming in and coming out, outside of you've expressed your love for New York, but so take New York off the table. What was there a destination, or maybe even just a moment in a major championship that you were like, wow, this is amazing that this sport has brought me here to this location or to this moment?
Yeah, it's probably quite a few, to be fair, Andy. I think when you even so the other week we stand on the stage of the O2 Arena and there's 18,500 total sellout in the audience, and you look around and you think, wow, this is darts. I go back in the when I used to watch this in the 80s and obviously started working on the 90s. Did I ever think it would be as big as it is? Absolutely not. So I think it's exploded. It's huge, which is great. I think it's great for everybody involved in the game. I think there's more opportunities there, and the opportunities are growing. But I mean, again, like with Madison Square Garden, think of the 4 years. Someone said to me 10 years ago, we're going to put a tournament in Madison Square Garden. We're going to fill the arena. I would have said, you need a man in a white coat to take
yes, put him in a rubber.
It's not going to happen. But I mean, I know Saturday nights you can't get a ticket.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's amazing. What an achievement that is to where it's come.
You mentioned the Desert Classic, and a lot of us have all been through that growth, and what an amazing journey to go from that room, like world class sport, and it just didn't register, to now walking in with in the United States, people in fancy dress. It's just still mind boggling.
Bring what is it because there's so many other options in Vegas? Is it because the darts is not big? I don't really. You guys know the answer better than me. But when you come to New York, there's still lots of things you can do, but darts seems to they love it. I mean, I personally, I mean, I was surprised they don't look at some other cities in New York as well, and not just do the one. I think the ideal candidate for me, I mean, surely that must be Boston.
Yeah.
You would think Boston, I mean, with the expat community and, you know, the Minuteman League and things like that, you would think that it was a, you think it was a no-brainer for an event there, but it's not.
This whole show needs to be sent to Uncle Barry. It's a lot of agenda items for the show.
But to be fair, Peter wasn't here, but we planned the 4-week trip around America. We started in LA and went all the way around there up in Toronto.
Oh, I heard. Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, we'll have that conversation in a bit. Sure.
Well, it sounds good.
For you, George, part of your other aspects that you talk about, obviously you see a lot of players coming into the Super Series and so on, and we're getting more and more North Americans coming in. Have you been taken back by the standard that these guys are now producing from when it first started?
Yeah, I think they've improved a lot. You know, I think the standard now, there's more than 2 or 3 players now. There's a handful, maybe double figures of players that are capable of averaging 100 on a match on stage on television. Where if you went back a few years ago, that wasn't the case. I think it's growing a lot in America. I mean, some of the players about singling some certain names out, but I mean, there's performance of Alex Bellman when he's been over, Adams a lot. He's been very good. And the Stowe's been over. They're all more than capable of basically all more than capable of winning the Super Series. I mean, something like that, regardless of what you're playing, you need a bit of luck and a bit of the roll of green, but the American standard's definitely going in the right direction, 100%. I think, I'm not sure, Peter will probably explain better than me and Andy. I think, I don't know how, if I, it's not a criticism, if I had something that I could sort of say what might help is a really good development plan for the younger players, but I don't know where the guys are with that. I've never spoken to them about it, so I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I mean, certainly we'll probably touch on this in another segment, but right now we've got the JDC downstairs doing an orientation for potential academies. Youth, I've mentioned it on some other interviews that youth has got to be a focus of ours. I'll say it to you. I'll say it later on as well that we've worked really hard to get. You mentioned our guys are capable of winning the Super Series. Our guys are going over. They're competing with the best in the world. Yeah, we're not a world champion yet. We get that, but we're competing with the best in the world. It's 15 years of work to get to that point, right? But now if you look, especially since Luke Littler, and I hate to overuse the Littler effect, but it definitely was a catalyst. You look at the spread now and the talent gap with what's coming up in Europe versus what's coming up here, and that gap is widening again. And so we have to find the youth. We have to find the younger generation because we've got to lower that gap. Or we're going to be back to where we were 15 years ago, and none of us want to do that after the blood, sweat, tears, and effort we've put in.
Yeah, sure, I get that. I think what you realise, because of we're not say small, but because we're from the hotbed of world darts, the UK, and Europe, where a lot of the top players have always come from. I think you've got to understand that, which I sort of see in cycles. When you look at like old artists that say the women's game, or maybe the American market, it's that. I don't know if there's a come across like, but they're years behind.
Yeah,
and it's not years behind because they don't know what they're doing. It's years behind because it takes that long to develop it. So because the UK market and the Europeans has been developed so strongly over the period of years, it's always going to lead. And it's very difficult to catch up because you have to keep doing that. And that's what I actually sort of mean. It's not criticism that you're not developing your players or anything like that. I don't mean it like that. Because if you like, they've got a head start.
Yes, exactly. We didn't take it as a criticism at all. It's the other thing that we fight here is that I was talking to Steve Brown about this earlier. I can still in Thunder. He'll be up here in a bit, but you have it ingrained in the culture, right? And it's not here. It's not something that people just that's darts. People tend to be exposed to it, which is fine. But if you're talking about bringing up the next generation, that's not where you're not going to find them. Hopefully, in a puff, right? So now you're trying to find. You got to meet them where they are, and the landscape is crowded here with competing sports. Now, I personally think this is the best sport in the world. I know you agree with me on that, but how do you find the generation to do that? So we're trying to kind of find ways to reach into schools. Yep. We got to get to that next level.
I think I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Peter. I think that the academies are massively important. And I've seen there's a few different people running projects for mathematics at schools. And I think the cell, if you can sort of get the schools and the children on board with a mathematical, I wouldn't say it's a lesson or a mathematical interactive exercise. I think for DARTS, that could be a real big way to develop. It's the same in the UK. I think it's still an untapped market in the UK. I know there's people in most countries in the world. I mean, obviously I should be quite good at mental maths, but I'm only really good at mental maths because I play darts. So I count anything sort of and do mathematics probably different to most people because I always do it mentally and add things and take things off. Well, mental maths is, I would say it's very good. And I only developed that through dance, and I think it could teach a lot of kids in schools and in these academies. It could be real good for their maths, real good. I think that could be the centre point to get the young people into the game over, possibly.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree that it's the way to go. And maybe we talked earlier about college football and so on, and can you get darts into colleges over here and stuff like that? Because that's again a massive area that it seems sport in America around the college system and everything like that.
Yeah, in many respects, it's an easier lift in the college system than it is certainly younger, although you'd like to catch them younger, because in the college level, now you're starting to, again, associate it with the alcohol aspect. And again, there's nothing wrong with going out and having a good time at a pub and throwing darts, right? That's always going to be a part of the game. But if you're talking about finding the next generation of talent, by the time they're in college, I think you've missed the opportunity to bring them up in the sport the way that we want them to come up in the sport.
I get that.
I agree. You need to get them earlier.
Yeah.
But I also should get your point with the college fees. Obviously, as you know, Phill, from the UK, the university dance is massive.
Huge.
Huge. I mean, the crowds when they get to their finals are unbelievable. Thousands.
Oh, the varsity darts thing, I've never seen anything like it. It's literally, it's worse than a Euro tour in terms of atmosphere. Forget whistling. They're literally megaphones shouting at their other opponents to put them off. It's like carnage, but great carnage.
Yeah, well, I think that route could achieve some things maybe a little different than the young junior grassroots, but I think that could also be a component in continuing to grow the culture of, like you said, to get the States and Canada that ingrain darts more into it. So you start to go backwards, get those young people in their 20s to fall in love with the game to play, but also to then want to be a spectator and a consumer and all of that to take it all in, encompass it, which is what we talk about is the game needs. Game needs everything from the consumer to the player.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly. And you're talking about from a fan perspective, again, and we were talking about this earlier, when you get, let's assume that we get a massive academy system. All right, let's look out. Let's say our perfect world exists in 3 to 5 years. We've got 50 academies across the United States. If you've got 1,000 youth players that are coming to those academies, 100 of them are going to want to move to the next level, and probably 80 of them or 50 of them would successfully do it. But the other ones they're falling in love with the game. They're the next generation of fans, and that's really, really critical, especially over here. We know we're blessed with that atmosphere at Madison Square Garden. It's absolutely amazing, right? It's electric. But we're not able yet to replicate that across the country, especially for CDC events. So that's kind of where I think the next step needs to be, is focus on the fan.
Yeah, Johnny goes to an academy, so now he wants to watch Peacock and watch the PDC events, and now he's got it on, and Dad's like, hey, that's pretty cool, and maybe we'll take a trip now, and we'll go see the darts when the darts are close enough to go see the darts for the weekend.
Yeah, I think as you both said, everyone's, I think obviously the way forward is obviously trying to develop as many academies as possible to get numbers. It's like a numbers crunching game, and if you get enough numbers, you will come through with what you want to get. So I guess the academies are probably essential in the States, I believe.
Changing the subject a little bit, George, going back, you've seen an awful lot in the sport. Who's the best you've seen play out there? They're optimal. You sit on that stage with all the greats, but who would you is the best you've ever seen on there?
Well, the most successful players, obviously, Phill Taylor. The best player I've ever seen is Michael Van Gerwen, in my opinion. A lot of people disagree with me, but if you look at the stats and the dominate, I mean, people say that only Phill Taylor dominated the game, but I think you need to have another look and see how long Mark Van Gerwen dominated the game. Where the field was very deep.
Correct.
Don't get me wrong, Phill could beat anybody as well. So I'm not, never criticise a man who's won what he's done, and he's an absolute fantastic player. But pound for pound on their best game, Van Gerwen for me. But it wouldn't be a lot in it. So I mean, I'd slightly favour him. Well, to be perfectly honest, I think them two, ability-wise, was Ed and Schultz above anybody else. I think don't be honest, hundreds of really top-class players, but they've not got the CV for me to yet. Yeah, so I know there's a lot of talk about Luke. Both of Luke's good players, but they've got to go a fair ways to stack the CV up like them two.
In sport, is that something that happens more and more now? Like the word great and legend is labelled around, not just in darts, I think in general, is labelled around too much. And perhaps the very greats of these sports do get overlooked because we pile so much on people that perhaps aren't at that level or don't have the CVs, as you said.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think there's a lot of people that people are a legend, but for me, there's less. I can count the legends in this game on that as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah, it definitely gets overused.
And again, the Littler effect is as it's been called. But I remember when he came to the Super Series for the first time, and you had to break the rules to get him in at the time. Did you ever imagine when you got that rule change signed off to get him in at that young age that 2 years down the line the game would be where it is now because of him?
Absolutely not. I don't think anybody did. And if anybody did, I'd have to support them a lot. Yeah, we changed the rules. I had to speak to certain game partners and data partners regarding the being at the O-grade level. There's a lot for us, I agree. And the rest history come out, won it twice, and we was all mates when he didn't actually win it the third time. But, and he actually come back and present the trophy.
Yeah,
you remember, he come back and said, look, I think it was good for him. I think that, am I saying he didn't plan it? Would he be where he is today? No, I'm not saying that. He probably still would be. But I think it definitely helped him. I helped his grip when he went on that year, at the end of that year, to get the final for the championship, losing to the Luke Humphreys. Yeah. So I think it definitely helped him. But he's always been good, Luke. He still watches it now. He'll post on social media.
Yeah.
He said a nice post about Neil Duff the other day. I don't know if you see it. Yeah. No, of course not. I don't think anyone did. But I mean, it's explained. Let's be honest. I mean, he's been on every program that's not even linked to darts in the UK. When it's chat shows, he speaks with all the right people, and fair play to him. Good luck to him. Long may it continue. I just hope he continues on the path to where he's going, because I think I wouldn't say it's a danger for him, but he would have a lot of outside distractions now.
Yeah.
It's just whether he can keep it. I ain't saying he can't, because he looks like he can. He looks level-headed, and he looks like it's not a problem for him. But being able to do that when you've got everything else going on around you, like a bit of a, I wouldn't say a circus, but you know what I mean? The attention that everyone wants of him all the time, and what they want him to do, and where they want him to go all the time. He's obviously has to turn things down because the demands of that. So you've got to bear in mind, he's only 18. So we forget that.
He's 18 with an MBE.
Yeah.
It's mad. And just looking forward, the Super Series, what's your end goal for it? Where would you like to get it to in the next 2 years? Because we've seen the growth of it is incredible from when it started at home on webcams to where it is now. Where do you want to get it to the next couple of years?
Yeah, I'd like to grow the live content. I think we have 35 hours of live at this moment in time on the 24/7 channel. So I'd like to grow the live content. I'd very much like to bring in different time zones. So locations in different time zones, which would help with the live. I'd like to grow it onto more channels. I'd like to be able to, be careful how I say this, I'd like to be able to use certain players that we're not allowed to use at the moment.
Any effects without saying it?
Oh, maybe, yeah. But everything's work in progress, and you know, we work very well with the other parties, and we've got no wish to fall out of bed with anybody. But I mean, I think that would give it a shot in the arm as well. But yeah, I'd like to grow more. I'd like to grow a bit more globally, and in the right time zones. And I'd like to be able to tap into certain players that we can't tap into at the moment, which would then, as in anything, would then drive more interest and sponsorship, more TV interest and things like that. And that's the avenue I have to do what I'd be looking to do.
Just this is for all three of you, because what you said there kind of works. That the darts circle, if you will, all needs to be in unison for it to work. And especially in the UK for a long time, it's been very disjointed, as we know, with the amateur game not being as it should and so on. So is this part of the read? Can we get darts in this great big circle that works for everyone now? The game's never been in a better place. Can we get it to this perfect circle where the pathways work for everyone?
I mean, that's been our goal at CDC for a long time. There are a few people that I think want to keep the fiefdom and stand in the way of that. I'm not going to name any names, but the more we can do to bring, look, we talk about different pathways, right? We talk about WDF. We talk about obviously PDC. In the US, it's the ADO, WDF. In Canada, it's the NDFC, WDF. Look, we are better as the top end tour on this continent when we have a very strong feeder system. We are not antagonists to the WDF. We need the WDF. I would argue the stronger WDF and a stronger ADO here and a stronger NDFC is actually good for us in the long run. And it's good for Modus. It's good for all of the parties. The challenge is sometimes you've got fiefdoms that you need. I mentioned that word a couple of times, that you just need to get people out of the old way of thinking.
Yeah, I think. Of course, it'd be easier if everyone worked together, and but there's certain people that have got I'll call it, it's my football and you can't kick it. And that they cause, if you're putting the goodness of the players first, which is what you should do. There's a lot of I'm not going to name any names, but there's certain organisations that put the goodness of their self first instead of their plans, which are and you can see that from a mile off. So, and if you was going to work together with different parties, if you're happy to do, if you're confident of doing that, if you think you've got a product and you've got something to bring to the table, you shouldn't be worried about other competitors or all like that, because you can all work together if you've got something good. It's only the people that know that have got something, but it's not quite as good as what they like to think it is, and they're scared. In my opinion, they're scared to get involved with the other organisations because they think they're going to step outside their comfort zone and they won't fit in the cog of the wheel. That's how I see it.
It's a really good that's it. It was interesting because obviously both doing it on the other sides of the world, but that pyramid that can be built from it is a stronger game all around.
So you can't do everything on your own. You need partners. You need people you can trust to work with to grow what you're doing, And it's one of my ethoses in what I do. I like to work with people and I'd love someone coming up with an idea and or give me a bit of advice that would help. The pathway of where we're going, and if we can do it with another party at the same time, then great. There's nothing wrong with sharing. If you can share and get to the common goal together, in a better way. Well, it's no bad thing in sharing a slice of what I would say, slice of the pie to achieve the goal that you want to get to. But that's what I'm going back to. What I was saying. I think a lot of these organisations are scared to stick their finger in the pie because they know that they shouldn't be sitting at the table.
100%. Before we let you go, George, looking back at the career that you've had, have you got one moment where you go, that was the one?
Well, that's a tough question, really. Probably the 2 9-darters Phill Taylor done in one match, I guess. And I think he actually missed the 8th treble for a third. Yeah, I mean, look, that's never been done before or since on a live TV match. Yeah, I know it's been done on a Pro Tour game, but it's not been. I mean, final of the Premier League. I mean, it was a big match, to do that. Yeah, so I guess that until someone else does 2 or 3 in one game, I guess I'm always leading the way in that. So I've done loads of good games and lots of fantastic finals, but I think if I had to pick one, that's the easiest one to pick for me.
George, thank you very much.
Yeah, please. If you don't, yeah, all right. Well, earlier we spoke about how the word legend may be overused in some circumstances, and you said no more than 5 legends in this game, but that was from a player standpoint. I will certainly go uh, to the mattresses. Pete knows what that term means. You, sir, are a legend in this game. We have this interesting sport that we love that has these many components to it. It's not just the players up there performing at a world class level, but it's an audience that needs to be involved, and the stage presence of the staff members that are up there. And a referee. I can't think of any other sport that a referee plays such a pivotal role in the atmosphere and conduct almost as a orchestra leader up there on stage. And I know from my perspective, I want to say thank you as a Dart fan for what you've contributed to this game. All of those great moments, like you said about those matches you were involved in, and from a personal standpoint, a highlight of my career was to get a chance to work with you in Las Vegas at one of the U.S. Masters on the floor portion, and to be able to work with you all day, learned so much, and it was a complete honor. So just want to say thank you for what you've done for the game and your career.
That's really kind. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
It's been a pleasure working with you, and I'm sure we'll do some stuff again in the future.
Those sentiments. I've been in the game a long time. I've been with PDC North America since 2002. We've run across each other a lot, George. I'm proud to call you a friend. I have one question for you. Because of the duration of your career, and it kind of spans 2 eras in the game, right? I talk about this with Colin Lloyd. We have this conversation a lot, and Terry and Dennis Ovens. The heyday of the game, is it now, or was it before the prize money got to be where it is now? If you had what is the golden age of darts?
For me, it's look, I was involved in it as a kid in the 80s and that, and they said that was a golden era. It's now. It's now for me. The standard. It's like anything. It's like any sport. The standard now, and I'll probably get pelters for this, but the standard now, the standard now is much higher than it was, much higher. And there are a load of people disagree with me on this, but you feel like the older day greats couldn't compete today with the players of what they're doing now. But that's the same in golf. It's the same in athletics. The equipment change. The equipment. Exactly. So it's very difficult to compare eras because they never had that. They never had the opportunities, never had the chances to do. But for me, I'd say now.
Love that, George. Thank you very much for joining us here on the Live Lounge Live. Massively appreciate it always. And thank you very much. Everyone, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back on the other side of this. Welcome back, everyone, to the Live Lounge Live here at McHale's in the most wonderful, magnificent city of New York. Anthony, what a session it's been. We've got Peter will be back joining us in a minute, and Steve Brown will be joining us in a minute as well. But that session with George, that was incredible. Just to pick the insight that he gave.
Brilliant stuff. And I really meant it. Like, a legend applies to George. I mean, for, both his BDO work and then moving into the PDC, just, incredible moments that he was a part of. And like I said, it's as I've learned this game from the sort of behind the scenes standpoint, like how critical it is, all of that infrastructure that needs to be built to put on the show that we're going to see at MSG. Like, just two players on stage throwing at a little disc on the wall just doesn't do it. It takes a big team effort, and George is a huge part of that.
Just his general knowledge of the game, not just what he was doing, was incredible. Is the thing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Just somebody who's been there, seen it, seen all aspects of the game. It's I'm sure we could, have talked to George for 2 full hours, and it would have been brilliant content all the way through.
Yeah, but like the players, he's got to go and get ready because he's on the stage this evening.
Show tonight. Everybody's getting ready for the show.
The biggest show in the biggest city in the world starts this evening. Whilst we're waiting for Steve to finish up here, that this whole trip that this World Series is on, and I know you might not say it, but this is the showcase event now, where before all eyes used to be on Australia, where now it's shifted. It's here. This is the one that all the players want to get picked for, which is great for you guys.
Oh, there's no doubt. Obviously it helps that you got the gravitas of the most famous the most famous arena in the world as the backdrop for it. But I mean, and you guys hit, and I'm sure we'll talk more about this later. But you guys hit on it in your first segment that we now need to start driving wins, right? It's not enough to just keep showing up. Now we got to start defending our turf because we're capable of doing it now, right?
You need progress, but then there's plateau. Like you plateau, you start to just wither off the vine and die. So it has to be a constant progression.
100%. And so, when we look at tonight, our expectations are totally different than they were 3 or 4 years ago, right? Because I agree. But then, you look at, we were happy that we got mentioned. Remember the first year we got mentioned on the news and it was like, oh my God, darts is on the news. And then now the big podcasts are starting to pick it up. It's like, oh my God, no, it's on, Ariel Helwani picks it up. But what's going to really get it into the consciousness of the American public? It's sure is going to get his day in the sun. If he wins a world championship, gets his day in the sun. But it's an American player that's going to drive American media. So we need it. And it starts here.
Touching on what you said there, time machine. If John Part had won one of his world championships now, what would that do for the sport in terms of what it didn't do back then?
Certainly for Canada, but I think even here, it depends if you're talking pre-Donald Trump or post-Donald Trump, right? I mean, I want to dredge that up, but yeah. So I do think that they would have definitely gotten in the public's consciousness a lot more, which would have made our lift a lot easier.
Yeah, it was just an interesting one to see the effects of social media in general, what it would have done for darts in North America if he'd have won one now.
The increased opportunities to be interviewed, to be exposed are just, 10, 15-fold now than what they were in 94.
And I mean, the democratization of media has been great for the sport, right? Look at, we've got a platform here that we wouldn't have had 10 years ago, 15 years ago. We wouldn't have been able to bring this to the world. And this opportunity exists everywhere now. Hi, Steve.
All right. How are we doing? Finish one in the doing into us. Speaking of platforms, JDC himself, Mr. Steve Brown here on a road trip and a fishing expedition and trying to push the JDC to all corners of the world. How are we doing, mate? All right?
Yeah, thanks for having me.
How excited are you to be here pushing the JDC forward in the greatest city in the world?
how can you not come to New York and be excited anyway? Let alone be here on a work expedition. But no, yeah, it's fantastic. We came last year, really enjoyed it. We achieved, we got an academy out of it, our first academy in North America, which has been really successful. And Nick's been downstairs sharing his experiences with us. It's not all sunshine and roses, running an academy can be difficult, as Nick's explained. But again, he's very thankful that he's done it, and hopefully we can spawn another 5 or 6 this year.
Growth downstairs. It's 10 times the growth from last year. In terms of the interest to attend the JDC accreditation. I mean, wonderful growth downstairs.
Yeah, absolutely. And we keep banging on about, say, Luke Littler keeps coming up. I'm sure he's fed up with us mentioning his name, but what he's done for the sport and worldwide, not just in the UK. Obviously, the UK is booming, but around the world, and the investment now going into North America, not just from the manufacturers, but from the PDC and broadcasters and stuff. So it's not going to go backwards in North America. It can only go one way.
We were talking to George earlier about getting the youth involved in North America, which obviously helps the growth of the CDC in turn, because then they've got a conveyor belt. How do you replicate what you're doing in the UK in North America?
I don't think it's a case of replicating. I think we have to change our approach. I think we need to. I think in the UK, kids are dragging their parents to academies. They want to play darts. They see it so often now. I think we need to first we need to win over the parents. I think in the US probably, and get them to bring their kids along, because it's not, the exposure isn't there for the kids to see the sport. So I think we need to win talk about the benefits of playing darts. Carry on, continue.
I think, like earlier in the show, we've talked about what the impact, say, something like the Peacock exposure might be, and we talked about it one way, right? In that the effect academies could have on families and interest to expose the sport, and it could also work the other way, right? People getting into the sport based on seeing it at the top level, and like, wow, that's another career path or another way to go. How do you get into this? And you look up your most local JDC Academy, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, it's good downstairs. I mean, geographically, the guys that have turned up today are from all over the US, mainly the US. I think it's just US, but yeah. So we've got West Coast, East Coast. They're all around. So I'm also talking to Winmore partners, and they were saying that there's a big. I think they're going to be going into lots of major sporting stores in the US very soon. But part of the packaging, they're going to mention, where do I join my local darts academy? So I think that'd be pretty useful.
Peterson. North American.
I mean, so Steve, if you could paint your perfect world, looking 3 years out in North America, where would you like the JDC footprint to be?
In terms of academies, I think.
In terms of however you want to answer that question.
Yeah, no, I think I'd like to see. Do you know what I'd like to see? I'd like to see, because I've been playing darts in North America for around 20 years now, and I made many friends along the way. Some of them are still playing. Some of them have, props in the winters of their career, should we say. But I think they've got a lot to give back. And I like to see more of these guys put their names to things. I mean, they're big guys in their local community. Even if they haven't got the time to run these academies themselves, put your name to it, because there's people within your community you play darts with on a weekly basis. They'll hook onto that, they'll help you out, they'll run it, and they'll bring their kids along. But having somebody in that town with a big name for darts would really help. And there's a lot of guys out there with, I think, got a lot to give.
So it's an interesting thing, because that's how Steve, and kind of go back, that's how the JDC started, because I remember originally it was the Steve Brown Academy. But at the time, you were a successful PDC professional playing on Sky Sports, playing at the World Championship. People could relate to, oh, he's the guy I see on TV. So that's how this started. And again, like you said there, this could be a very similar thing in North America.
It spread really quick. If you put your name to something, and you will become renowned for it, and also there's a nice legacy to leave. So, I suppose in a selfish way for these guys, their careers are over, but after you've gone and left this earth, people will still be playing in your academy. I mean, and that's a great legacy to leave.
The youth in America is obviously, the numbers that could be involved in the sport is huge. We see the numbers playing football, basketball, or whatever. If you could just get a small percentage of that across to the JDC, would be remarkable.
Yeah, I think not just for the JDC. I think the CDC would be great beneficiaries, and so would the PDC ultimately. But I think we're all we know this is a long term. Is not a quick fix to this. I mean, it's changing people's perception of the game, and is going to. We're doing great, by the way. So, but. Yeah, absolutely. But we know this is the long game we're in. We know that. We appreciate it, but we know it's going to be worth it.
Darts is very what I call regimented in the UK. Right, we know what we're doing. We have this, 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 and this. Where sport in America is very different, as we discussed earlier. Could we see a path where we have a Super Bowl of darts? Could we change the way darts is in America to give it that American style and flavour to get kids into it? Is that something that could be looked at, perhaps? Do you know what I mean?
I mean, I think that certainly we mentioned it earlier that I think you said it, that what happens in the UK can't happen here. You're not going to replicate it, right? It has to evolve. But when you talk about how we quote unquote Americanize it, right? Obviously, entertainment is king. Anthony mentions the WWE, WWF. I mean, he makes that comparison all the time. We kind of go back and forth about it because I think that comparison fails at the fact that that's staged and darts isn't. But the entertainment part of it, I'm with Gob on that, firmly with Gob on that. But the entertainment part of it, I think there's a way to tailor that for the American audience. Absolutely.
Well, I actually sometimes I kid with Pete. I want to go in the opposite direction. Not that I will never obviously compromise the game on stage, but I'd like to
body slamming each other. Come on, that's what he wants.
To see a little bit more kayfabe in the game of darts. I mean, in that more character development and that behind the scenes, we may all have a laugh and hopefully cash a good paycheck, but put a little character. I want to see you pick up a microphone and tell me how you're going to bash that guy. Yeah. You may love him to bits, but I want you to tell me, I want you to sell that ticket for me, right? Why should I go? I want to see you bash that guy up and, or him get his comeuppance on you because you've been the bad guy.
Very much part of the birth of the ADC and the belts and we introduced that concept. So that was my idea, was the fact that people call people out on the same sort of focus that boxers get, that kind of that energy. That's exactly what I thought would be a great idea for darts. So I think that's still got legs in that somewhere.
100% has.
Yeah, I agree with what you said wholeheartedly, but that doesn't mean it still fails the WWE comparison. It's staged. It's fake. It's not a sport.
Well, you jump up a 15-foot high turnbuckle, and that part's staged.
I go back to I spoke to Paul Nicholson many times about Royal Rumble format, kind of, even if it's a best of three. Imagine that at Madison Square Garden. We didn't know who's coming next. The music, the glass shatters, and somebody will, that'd be great.
I think in a way that's sort of at the front of what Phill is proposing and then what Pete's sort of following up is to take the core of the game that we love and how to put a twist on it, to present it to the younger U.S. audience. What kind of twist on it that we can? It's literally a case of thinking out of the box of what the traditional game that we love, but how to put a spin on it.
I agree. It should be a one size fits all. I think you should be a bit more liquid with it, a bit more fluid. Just depending on where you are in the world. We all know the World Championship's going to be 501, set play, etc. But just to get the people engaged and people participating in the sport, we should make it more interesting and appeal to whatever that country wants.
100. You look at the evolution of cricket, the way the cricket has evolved to 2020. Now we've got 100 ball games and so on. I agree that fluidity needs to be there, and like the one leg 1,001 shootout and so on and things like that can get kids involved. And we look at the way kids, I say kids or younger people, consume content. They want it like that. They don't want to see a match played over. Look, as purists, we love the best of 13 sets and it's going for 2.5 hours. However, that younger audience aren't engaged for that long like we are.
You're 100% correct. But then we've got to call back to a point that you made even before I got on, which is you then have to get acceptance from the current players as well. So it's got to transition, right? And we're at an inflection point in the game here, I think globally, but especially in North America, where how do you evolve and still get the core players that you need to be able to buy into it, right? People are resistant to change. You talked about it when we ended up at MSG versus Vegas, the pushback on that, right? And again, kudos, you're right to say, kudos to Matt and kudos to the rest of the team for doing that. But you have to figure out how to do that without killing what you have, and that's the challenge.
Yeah. You can't kill the base or what is sort of the heart of it. Just figure out a different way to present it.
Yeah. Do you actually think someone's going to walk away from the sport because they're not happy?
I mean, at some point, you hope there's not a mass exodus. Like, I've said to Anthony, it can't behind closed doors. I don't care if a person, two people, basically say, forget it. If we're not for you, we're not for you. That's fine, but you can't do it in a manner that you're then going to have. Well, the last thing we need right now is a schism. Right, we don't want. We saw what happened to the game after the PDC the BDO split. Right, we don't want that. So you've got to just have a plan intentionally and bring it to the forefront and talk to the players about it and get buy-in and maybe even have them help craft what we're talking about.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that the time that I spent in North America playing, the amount of formats you play is crazy. I mean, it's mixed trips, cricket, and there's so much things already going on. I think just at a higher level. I don't think the change would be
event, like you say, to those events that we see, just tagging a new one on might work.
But look, we're trying to do some of that with the Saturday events that we're doing this year. The format change. Well, look at what we did last year with the summer series. We could talk about this in the later segment. I told Matt Porter what we're doing about the summer series. He comes back to me, goes 301. Like he's the eyebrow. You can hear the eyebrow go up when he said that. Like, don't worry, Matt. We're not going to give you cricket. We're not going to do that.
I have an idea. Oh, but for the pros. So some pros don't get on with each other. Like imagine watching in a locker room, if you like, and the draw comes out, and someone's got to play for someone. We know they hate each other. They got to play together just to get through that one round, and then they'll redraw each round.
Top, I believe.
Team Belgium. I'm sorry.
We're not mentioning me.
Oh, I am. But something similar, like everyone knows my pet hate is the Premier League format, right? But that week where one plays 8, spice it up, right? Instead of one plays 8, one pick who he plays, and you do it. He goes up, I'm picking him, and things like that, spicing it up like that. Because look, we know that take Nathan Aspinall's record against Dobie, it's incredible. So Aspinall goes up, picking Dobie because I always smash him up. And then flip the coin. Littler does something similar. I'm picking Aspinall because I'm 17 and 1. Spice it up a little bit. Give the fans something that tell that narrative a little bit better.
Well, I think that whole what comes to mind that takes a lot of nerve is what a lot of bottle, right, to do those ideas. And I do think there's a lot of people in the game, and I certainly will include myself in them, that are a little too much traditionalist like that. It does take a lot of belief and commitment, and I can't think of what I'm trying to say is the nerve to jump off that cliff with a new idea that is completely radical. It's a scary proposition for a lot of entities to take a chance on something that seems very radical but might be the difference maker. So there's a lot of great ideas, but boy oh boy does it take a lot of nerve to commit to something like that.
My concern is that we're sort of oversaturating the space with the same thing, same players playing each other, and there's not enough jeopardy, I don't think. And the thing is now, when I used to watch the BDO back in the day, you might get the averages pop up once a match, but now we're so conscious of averages, and we kind of know where people's ceilings are as well. So just add a bit of jeopardy and a bit of emotion to the game, I think, could help. I think personally,
like the extra shoulder content that TV companies, social media can do as well. Like we say, if you're doing it, Premier League's on a Thursday. The Wednesday, you have your hour show where you create that shoulder content and stuff like that then goes with it, which then gives you 24 hours to sell the narrative and so on and plug the gap. And if there are tickets available, if something kicks off, then all of a sudden, those tickets then finish up. We see boxing, the press conference on the Friday, the show might not be sold out. Derek Chisora lobs a table at Eddie Hearn because he doesn't like him. Then all of a sudden, Saturday night sold out because you sell that narrative, where at the moment, for me, it's just Thursday to Thursday to Thursday with nothing in between.
Yeah, I'll be careful to say that Darts is in a great place. So I don't think we need to change too much. But I just said I would like personally just to see something change along the line somewhere.
Talking about at the top level is good. We're talking about implementing this underneath to get more eyes on the product and stuff like that. And like you say, the juniors, like let's just say you implement this with the JDC. And the two names that spring to mind, Jaden Walker goes up and goes, I'm picking Jack because I want revenge for
Yeah.
For Milton Keynes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 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 but I'm not sure with the kids. I think it might be a little bit too. Yeah.
It's like you said, top level of taking an already good product, a good standard, and figuring out how to make a good twist on it, and surviving the negative feedback from an initial launch. It's the course.
Exactly right. And our American audience will understand this more than the UK audience. But what you need, ideally, what you're trying to do is, well, right. But what you're trying to do is what the Savannah Bananas did to baseball.
Yes.
Is what we could use for darts. Now that you guys, if you're not familiar, Savannah Bananas are essentially, you're familiar with the Harlem Globetrotters. So essentially it's a baseball version almost of the Harlem Globetrotters. It's baseball, but it's not. And they fill up these, massive MLB parks for a recreational exhibition game. It's fantastic. We need that, but the question is it cart before the horse? So let's say that our organization is the one that's going to lead. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not saying that, not committing us to this, but let's say we are. Oh, geez, that's always my word when I'm on with you. But if we're the ones doing it, is it the time to do it now? Will that be the catalyst to get to that next level, or do you need to season the next level before you do that and try to throw something else in? I don't know if there's a right answer to that, but that's what's in my mind.
I have an idea. Chairman to chairman.
We'll step right.
What about the 8 top junior players to the 8 top CNC players? How about that?
I mean,
Close the press up.
I'm sure you would.
In terms of engaging younger audience,
I think the viewership would be amazingly fantastic. I think that would be an interesting thing to do. We could talk about it and get the business part of it set up and figure out how we're going to monetize it. And it's a lose for us. It's exactly kind of what I was trying to get to. Is I don't know where the upside is for me.
Oh, I've already got four pages of content planned in my head from this. So when can we start?
The gauntlet has been thrown.
hopefully we do win. And a few of your younger guys watching. Because it's going to draw a younger audience for sure across TikTok and all the other platforms. And again, but obviously those American kids that are thinking, these young English kids beating us, I'm going to start playing darts. But yeah, maybe.
We either lose the kids or we're accused of beating up on kids. Yeah, exactly. We don't win this PR fight in any regard.
The world to pick from. You just got the score for there. Yeah,
we'll someday, Brown. Someday we'll get you.
I'm just going to make John Park pinning tops and full round, giving it the biggest celebration to some poor little. That's it.
Give us your best guess right
Yeah, I think we've got a bit of peace, but yeah.
I'm all for it.
Jesus. This went off the rails, Bart. Thanks. Appreciate that.
Did you expect anything else?
No, of course not.
All right, let's read it back in then. Just going back to obviously the JDC evolution in North America, obviously with you guys as well. In 10 years, where can we get this? Can this feeder path be perfect in 10 years?
I think so. Obviously, at the top end, there's already, there's a great pathway there. We haven't got to create anything there, and these kids have got somewhere to go. The CDC and the tours are great. The Evolution Tour and your main tour, fantastic. So it's just, I think we've all got, like I said earlier on, I would like to see more and more people with names, been around, lots of experience. These guys have travelled the world for years and years. I mean, they've been there, seen it, done it, and they've got a lot of wisdom. And just share some of it, or help some people out. I think that should be the cornerstone of where we go from here and get these people involved. And from that, people will be encouraged in the next city of these Darren's. I was going to say Darren Young then, but but just as an example. So Darren's doing something over there. I want to do that at my town, and it not necessarily have the same kudos as that guy, but they could do a good job running an academy. But people need to be inspired, but it need to see somebody who's already doing it to be inspired.
And I don't think there's a perfect pathway, but I think, look, the important thing to get the audience to understand is that the JDC, the CDC, the PDC are all marching in lockstep. We're investing more in our junior evolution tour more than the juniors in terms of money, but we're investing time and effort into the juniors. Eventually, the money will trickle down there as well. So we're trying to provide them more incentive to once the academies are in, get them into the CDC system, move them to the PDC. Our partners, the PDC, are investing. So I think you've got a lot of smart people on this side of the pond working with smart people on the other side of the pond to really make what you're talking about happen.
Well, I like that. It's good to hear. And like I say, I know we went off topic, but it just that whole topic, because as I say, we see it in the UK working so well, and it's just replicating that, not just in North America. Can it go and happen in Australia, in Asia, in South Africa, and so on?
Yeah, you know, North America is so vast, same as Australia. I mean, it's really hard to get some movement going, and I appreciate that. So we're going to look into a lot of online stuff. That's going to be one of our focuses in the next 12 months. See what we can do there. So yeah, but I mean, it's countries like Belgium and Ireland, for example, Scotland. Academy looking all the time, and we're flying. But again, they're not vast; they're quite small countries, you know. So, but these guys have really got a difficult job, and are doing great.
Steve, absolute pleasure catching up with you here in New York before MSG, mate. Thank you very much. We'll come down and we'll see what's going on later. But thank you very much, buddy. As always, everyone, Mr. Steve Brown, guys.
We want to.
Thank you, Steve. Steve can take the prize. We're just going to carry on chatting.
We'll put it. We'll just carry on chatting. We want to let's take what we talked about for nearly 2 hours now. But between we've got players and officials and development. Put a bow on it. Talk to Pete as the CEO of the CDC on North American darts, our progression and direction.
Sure. I mean, fire away. I can proselytize, or we can.
Well, let's say Phil's perspective, because I know how the sausage is made. I know behind the scenes, so it's unfair for me to lead Pete in a certain direction. But from your perspective in the UK, where things are in North America.
I don't know. We've laughed and joked, but we talk a lot. And look, from where it was 4 years ago to where it is now is absolute night and day. You've got household names that people know who Adam Sevada is, Stowe, Buntz, Spellman, Gates. So that's obviously a massive kudos that there are household names from North America in the UK. Again, it's harvesting it, and look, we want to see more of them. Is the thing, and I get time, resources, and money, and everything like that. It's hard, but how can we see more of them? Do you know what I mean? Because we're greedy. We get to see the elite every week, and we moan because the challenge tour isn't streamed because we want to see that. You know what? People want content and so on.
I've never known. No, they're not moaners at all. No, so I think in some respects, look, adding spots to the World Championship certainly gives us that pathway, right? And talking about moaning, we announced we've got 5 spots, and the first reaction among some of the fans is, "Well, there should be more. Why not 6? Why not 8?" We just come on, like you've got to crawl before you can walk. We're now walking at a pretty brisk pace. We've got 5 spots. Now it's up to you being the player community, to come out and, continue to test your mettle. We're adding events. We're trying to expand the calendar. That also gives more opportunities for players to do that. And I think that you'll see what you're looking for. It doesn't come as fast as you want it. Candidly, it hasn't come as fast as we wanted it to. You've heard me say, and you've heard me say, we are now 11 years into a 4-year plan. So, all we can do is keep trying to change things up and move forward. I think we've been very successful at that. I had a conversation yesterday. I was actually talking to Matt Porter yesterday pretty extensively, and I had a conversation with him, and I said, you get involved in this, and Anthony, you'll know what I'm talking about here, and you're so engulfed in the minutia. Like, oh my God, this has to be done, or that has to be done, or there's this mountain of problem in front of you that sometimes you forget to stop and look back and go, where the hell were we in 2015? And it's undeniable, Phil, and it's undeniable for any of you at home, that we are light years ahead of where we were, because we arguably entered at the nadir of darts, right? And we've gone from the nadir to almost the pinnacle of North American darts.
Oh, yeah, no, I completely. You know me, I watch everything and so on, and the production has got better, and it's great seeing it. It was interesting what you were saying earlier about Madison Square Garden sold out. How do you capture that audience to come to CDC events? Because I would love to see an packed audience for cross-border, for Continental Cup, because there's obviously an appetite for it. We see it. How do you guys capture and drag that into your majors?
So And in that respect, we've also improved. Granted, the cross-border this year, we were doing it as a stream, basically a streamed-only event. So you kind of look at that as a one-off. But look where the cross-border was in 2024, right? When we were in Indiana. We had, 300 people in that room. And I know that doesn't sound like a lot when you're talking about Madison Square Garden, but for us, it was a great crowd, right? So how do you replicate that? Well, you find the areas where you've got a fan base that's built in. You also work to make your players a little bit more exclusive, so they're not going and beating up on these or seeing these guys get beat up on by these guys at the local blind draw every week, right? You've got to create that commodity, and so. One of the ways you do that is money. And one of the pathways to that is gaming, right? So you're seeing now we're starting to stream 5 boards in our main event. What's the reason for that? Because we now have data partners and gaming partners that are interested in carrying CDC events. That becomes successful, more money comes in, more money breeds more exclusivity. And so it is a pathway.
Kind of beat me to something there a little bit where you said about your tournaments that have moved around and not really had homes. I was about to say that we've seen the PDC work because the match play we know is in Blackpool and so on. But is that a plan that we know the cross-border is here? We know the Continental Cup is here. Fans know it's coming back every year and you continue to build that base. Is that something that is on the horizon?
It's something that is a nice to have. We're at the point where we still have to chase the right venue at the right price, the right deal, right? I got a real kick out of what you guys were talking about earlier about, is it time to expand the North American Championship field? And from a player perspective, it absolutely is. From a budget perspective at the PDC, with the amount of money it costs to be at Madison Square Garden, I have some insight into that, that expanding that field, adding 3 more hours to that event blows your budget out of the water, right? So we have to look at it from the business perspective as well. So the short answer to your question is yes, it's something I think that we could do, but we have to find that right spot. And we're still trying to do that, especially with the cross-border. The cross-border is also an interesting concept in and of itself because we get grief for this, and I think probably rightfully so, that we have not been to Canada yet, right? So that's an event where I see we could move it, but have the Continental Cup have a permanent home somewhere else. And Anthony's talked about, and you've heard us say, that we're looking at adding a 3rd major at some point too. And when that happens, maybe that's the one we go with in the whatever area it is.
I think my take on that is that's certainly something that Peter and I and our partners know from the beginning. Like that's some of the ideals, and like you said, it's a wish list thing, but you need to get to a place where your substantial revenue comes in so you can make those decisions that this is going to be our home and do that. It is sometimes a chicken and an egg thing. What is the breakthrough thing? Is it to establish something and see if we can get through the first 2 or 3 years to be substantial and then have the ball rolling, or the opposite?
Well, and look, our production team, many of whom are sitting up here, would love to see us do what you mentioned, right? And because now they're working with known quantities. You've seen us start to do that a little bit with our main tour, right? So we're not bouncing around the world. We've got a kind of some homes now. Niagara Falls become a little. Go ahead.
Barnsley and Wigan.
Yeah.
To a certain degree, yes, we've wanted to desire because we get a lot of.
However,
there's certain camps.
The Metrodome that has a pirate water slide in it.
No, but we desperately need one.
Yes, I think after the catalyst, right there, it's the water slide. Exactly.
The secret sauce. If I may, just to finish, my thoughts on that idea of what different components. I think it needs to be a bouillabaisse of a few different ingredients on how to get those players you talked about, more name recognition. I think it goes hand in hand with the more PDC opportunities. Okay, so then the PDC opportunities, that creates a brand recognition. So then we can get the fans on this continent to be more familiar. And so in coordination with that, more brand recognition. I know Sevada and I know Buntz and I know Spellman. Well, now you can come see them at more and more CDC special events in your town. The 2 that we've established, a 3rd, a 4th, what have you. So in combination with that, you see them on TV, see them on Peacock in a PDC event. Well, they're coming to your hometown as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had a long conversation with Nathan Aspinall on Wednesday night about almost this exact thing. And he's, we can talk later about what the PDC's plans might be, but he said, the more we come over, the more we're playing your guys, the more exposure your guys are going to get. And that's true, right? look, as the CEO of of what essentially amounts to another baseball reference here, the triple A of darts, right? We're feeding the major league, which is the PDC. We only do, we rise as they rise. I'm going to ride those coattails as much as I can, right? But we can also be an incubator for new ideas. And that's why I was so interested in the conversation that we had with Steve Brown, whereas the PDC needs to do what the PDC is doing because it's tried and true. But there's a reason that Major League Baseball doesn't debut new ideas and new rules at the major league level. If they're going to try them, they want to try them at the lower level and watch them succeed or fail or get tweaked, right? So we can be that incubator. I think you'll see us try some new things.
I know, I like that. Gobs in the chat room. He says, all right, Peter Manley. Don't know who he's referencing to there, but it's funny. Someone said about the cross-border. They love the idea of the challenge, but can we make it more singles and pairs and not just that singles element? Can we make it a almost Ryder Cup style where it's proper America
there may be enough interest in that concept. Like as much as we, are brethren and we love each other, that it does spark something to have these competitions that have a USA, Canada, angle to it, right? So I do think that we might be able to also float on my grammar partner, like biannually basis, no, we won't keep the. I think the cross border, because now you've got spots in the World Championship. No, cross border is now established. Every other year, do a cross border, go across, truly go across the border to hold it. Not to use the term too often.
I'm not going to let a lot of cats out of the bag, but I think that you might see us be in a position to do that in a couple of years, when there might be other opportunities, ways for us to generate player interest from play. Because you as much as we have the top of the top, for things like that, you also want to reach people that are not in our ecosystem. And I think that there's some things that we are working on behind the scenes that if they come to fruition, will give you what you're looking for there.
Yeah, on Friday you could do triples. On the Saturday, pairs, and then on the Sunday, the Cup Collection Day, the captains pick the order as well. Not TV, like obviously I know you guys aren't governed by TV, but we know that Littler, Humphreys and MVG will all play in certain spots on a night. Where this wouldn't be. This would be, right, this is my order. So I think I'm trying to work out where my points are going to come from and so on like that.
Like that backhanded compliment? I know the TV doesn't drive you. Like that backhanded compliment? All right, we know what you're saying here, Phil.
I mean, I don't know what you speak of because it's not as if we've sat around and talked about this and fleshed out.
It's not as if it's all sitting in a notebook.
What the schedule would be.
Right,
but,
exactly.
But
exactly.
in theory, let's say, yeah, sounds pretty good.
Yes.
And it's all about money. It's money. It drives everything, right? With that same thing about exposure at PDC events, exposure at 3, 4, 5 CDC majors. But it's like we want to, just like you talk at a different level with the PDC players. We want to get to a place where CDC players are making good money, and you can look over at the year, and it creeps down from 6 to 8 to 16 to 24 that are making money. That life-changing money, not in life-changing that we're going to buy a mansion, but enough to say I'm secure enough to continue to compete on this high-level tour, and a lot of my bills are being covered.
Look, the next expansion is the expansion of the Continental Cup field. That's the next initiative. Okay, I'll let that out here. That needs to go, in my mind. We need to be at 24 players. 24 to 32, depending upon what you can work out with a venue contract, how many days you want to go. But I think legitimately we have 24 to 36 players that can compete and entertain. And so I think that's the next step.
No, I like that. Moving forward, this weekend, huge, as we know. That North American Darts Championship, one of them are going to be going to Alexandra Palace after it. How big is that for these boys?
I mean, it's a life changer. The announcement, the expansion of the field, the expansion of the prize money, it's only getting bigger. And so if you get a guy like Adam Sevada, who's on top of the world right now, right? I mean, he can basically stand here and throw backwards and he's going to hit $180, right? I mean, that's kind of what's going on with him. So let's assume that he goes on this magical run, books himself into the World Championship, books himself into the Grand Slam. I mean, look, you've got the not only is a pathway there, but now he's got stage experience. So he's not getting stage fright the time getting on at Alley Pally or getting on in Wolverhampton. We keep going back there. Right, exactly. But it's amazing. There's no doubt about that. You said one of these guys, there's two of these guys that if they win, I mean, Leonard Gates is already in. Matt Campbell's not eligible because of the rule that was in place for 2 years. But the other guys, sure, absolutely. One of those guys wins, and it's a catapult. It's a catapult to greatness.
You touched on you have to convert to W's. How far off are we from converting to W's, do you think? And I'm not just talking about 1 out of the 8. How far off are we from you winning half the night?
See, is that we need 3 to 4 victories to really look at this and say, all right, we are now at the next level. We've arrived. I think 3 is great. We're close. Again, the more experience that our guys have, the better off we're going to be. So sending some of them, look at many of them have played Modus, right? Modus isn't MSG, but it's the next step towards playing on a stage. Don't underestimate. And I was asked the question yesterday at the draw. Unfortunately, didn't hear the question I was asked, so I answered something that was a little different. But none of the guys here are debutantes. They all understand it. So this could be the year because you're not fighting that demon, right? The draw didn't do us any favors. You and I talked about that yesterday, but you've got to beat the best. So I think we can get 2 or 3 this year. I absolutely do.
PDC doesn't help us either. I mean, no disrespect to the players down in the rankings, but yeah, we appreciate that you send each and every Premier League player just about come on, can you give us a little room to work?
Well, agreed. But now, so let's assume, I'm going to move to a different topic. Let's assume that we get 3 to 4. Let's assume that Barry's interview, in which he said we're going to bring four of these to North America, becomes reality. Okay. In that case, you could conceivably do a month in North America, right, with the same guys, or it does give you the ability to maybe get guys who are still household names, but are not the Premier League.
You must have heard what I said on the live lounge last week.
Believe it or not, I actually didn't. I was in Hawaii. Wait, what did I hear? What did I miss?
I was on the European tour. Obviously, it wouldn't be over here, but could we have European tour style events come to North America where they're over here for 3 weeks? Now, it's not going to be all the Premier League boys. It will be the same format as the European tour. They have to qualify for it, and then there is X amount of host nation qualifiers, like there is in the Euro Tour. So we could have 4 if it's in the US, 4 US. If it's in Canada, there's 4 Canadian qualifiers, and so on.
Very easily see that happen.
Does that work?
I think it works wonderfully. Again, you've got to find, and again, I've had conversations.
I was about to say, conversations of this.
There have been a lot of conversations about what an expanded field in North America of events looks like. Okay, I can't go beyond that and let you know kind of where things. But the conversations are being had as to what they eventually look like. It's one of the things that certainly could be a possibility.
So I look at it. We could have World Series event, 2 weeks of US Tour, Euro Tour, another World Series event. Then you've got a month in North America where things are being showcased and so on, which would help. And with that European Tour idea, if you put Sevada up against the world number 48, I've just picked that number out at the top of my head who's qualified for it, that's a much more winnable game for Sevada than playing Luke Humphries. Do you know what I mean? And that brings his confidence on.
100%. But again, it all comes down to money, like everything else in this world. And you talked about, I mentioned the MSG expansion, but when you're looking at expanding events, you need to have the right venue contracts in place. And more importantly, you need to have the right TV contracts in place. The Peacock partnership is great. It's huge. We now need to deliver to what they believe is successful in terms of an audience. I know what that number is. I'm not going to share it. But if I look at that number, getting us to that number, I again talked to Matt Porter yesterday. We both agree to getting to that number is possible. but we need to figure out how to do it. That number then gets us more investment, gets us the ability to do more things, if that makes sense. That's one of the catalysts.
Well, that's good.
I'd like to close my portion here and steer Pete with let's head to the CDC portion of things. Like we had some really major announcements early in the season and talk about we're expanding. Well, we expanded a bit this year. Like we
16 events.
we went up to 16 events. We've got well over $200,000 of prize money over the course of the year. Continental Cup champion now earns $5,000. So there's more opportunities, more places to win prize money, and more prize money to be earned. We dropped the prize money down to the last 32 to help those players that want to compete and want to get better, get to a place where it helps with the bills, and then the icing is those expanded PDC opportunities. So very good year for us in terms of for those viewers who aren't
of course
with where we are in 2025.
You're guiding me to where I wanted to end up, so I'm glad you did that. So look, we hit the 200 and we'll call it $215,000. All right, we'll just call it that area. We hit that. What's the next? So then, what's the next goal? The next goal is clearly $250,000, right? So if we can be successful where we are now, and we can add the 200 and get to the $250,000, with that comes the expansion of the Continental Cup field. With that potentially comes the expansion of the cross-border field. That is the next logical jump. I want to get to a point where we are paying $1 million. Like, that's my goal. And you've heard me say that.
It's all perspective and levels. Like that's our big caveat, is to get the overall funding at that place.
And I think that that's absolutely possible. We're working on some sponsorship things behind the scenes. We've had phone calls that were foreclosed on us earlier that are no longer foreclosed on us. Again, you see us with the streaming expansion. It might look to the average person out there like these are all disjointed efforts, but they're not. They're all part of a larger plan. And so the answer to your question is yes, we need to expand, but we have expanded. And the next goal is, again, $250,000 and eventually up to $1 million.
Gentlemen, absolutely love that. Of course, we've gone into Fergie time. As always, 2 hours was never going to be enough. We're deep into injury time. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us here on the Live Lounge Live, here from McHale's in the most wonderful city of New York. If you haven't yet, make sure you follow Championship Darts on all social platforms and, of course, Online Darts. We've got a breakdown because we have got a darts day at Madison Square Garden this evening. So thank you very much. I've been Phill Bars, Anthony Eugenia, Peter Citera, and all our guests. Thank you very much, and we'll see you all very, very soon.
Bye.